for women immigrants and African Americans. On October 11, 1884, a very important woman was born into this country. At this time, women, immigrants, and African Americans were treated unfairly.
It was me, Eleanor Roosevelt. I was born into a wealthy but unstable family. Through this, I developed great leadership skills. When I was 19 years old, I married Franklin D. Roosevelt. In 1920, after my husband Franklin had lost his election with James M. Cox as his vice presidential running mate, I was no longer willing to live my life through my family. I began to look for work that would allow me to help other people. The League of Women Voters allowed me to do this because their goals were to develop political, powerful women and promote liberal causes. In 1921, my husband Franklin was paralyzed from polio. Meanwhile, I became more politically active, partly to help Franklin stay informed and involved, but also to pursue my own love of politics. In 1928, my husband Franklin was elected governor of New York. By then, I held important posts in state and national organizations and was a political force in my own right. My activities often made headlines in national newspapers and magazines, and people wrote letters to my editor about my work. Some people supported me, but others considered my ideas to be dangerously un-American. No longer afraid of criticism, I continued to pursue my work.
In 1929, the Great Depression began. Millions lost their jobs, their homes, and their life savings.
In 1932, my husband Franklin became the 32nd President of the United States. Franklin's election presented new opportunities for social change and new challenges for me. I was determined to use my unique position as First Lady to make America a better place for everyone. I began to travel the country to visit and speak with women, African Americans, and immigrants. I explained to Franklin how miserably some people lived, and I asked him to create programs and policies that would improve living and working conditions for these neglected groups of people. In 1935, I began writing a daily newspaper column called My Day. For the next 27 years, this column allowed me to share my concerns with Americans everywhere. In every way I could think of, I publicized the problems I saw, and I encouraged people to think of imaginative solutions. One group that particularly drew my attention was African Americans. All over the country, especially in the South, they were discriminated against at work, kept out of white communities and public places, and given little real protection under the law. I fought hard for racial equality and integration. I urged my husband to end discrimination. In 1935, thanks largely to my influence, FDR signed an order forbidding racial discrimination. I also continued to fight for women's causes, and I was delighted to see women working. I helped women gain their rights and freedom back. Immigrants were also a concern of mine. They were treated unfairly because they came from other countries. People paid them less money than they deserved. I helped immigrants find work. Throughout this period of my life, I made many impacts on our world, and I'm proud of what I've accomplished.
As World War II came to an end, so did Franklin D. Roosevelt's life. He sadly died April 12, 1945.
After my husband's devastating death, I returned to New York City, where I planned to live a peaceful and quiet life. But I was wrong. In 1945, and again in 1961, I was appointed United States Representative to the United Nations. There, I worked for social justice and helped write the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. A new international organization was being formed to promote peace and security throughout the world. Despite my concern that I was not qualified for the job, I accepted and became one of the 5 United States delegates. My work at the United Nations so impressed President Truman. The following year, he appointed me with a more permanent position at the United Nations. This group set up several important committees, one of which was the Human Rights Commission. The Human Rights Commission and I had an important job to do. This job was to write an official United Nations statement explaining the basic rights every man, woman, and child was entitled to. On December 10, 1948, the General Assembly passed the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. After 6 successful years in post, I resigned. I began to travel widely to promote the United Nations and worldwide peace and human dignity.
At the age of 78, on November 7, 1962, Eleanor sadly died.
Eleanor Roosevelt was a compassionate reformer and diplomat. Because First Lady Eleanor Roosevelt cared deeply about the rights of women, African Americans, and immigrants, she became a champion for human rights and social justice and a voice for those who had no power.
Great topic. And the usual question to start off, how did you pick it?
Well, when we saw all these topics, we really wanted to choose a woman, and we knew how involved she was, but we really didn't know that she did as much as she did as First Lady.
We wanted to do something with politics, so we were looking at different political women who were involved in this, and we found her to be the most interesting, and we all didn't know very much about her, so we wanted to learn more, so she was good.
What was your favorite primary source for information?
Our favorite and most helpful was Library of Congress because it gave us letters that Eleanor had sent to her husband Franklin, and it just gave us pictures that really helped us.
What did you learn from those letters?
Well, we learned like what she felt about different topics, so she would travel and she would see different people's living conditions and how they worked, and she wrote to Franklin, and it told us how she felt about those working conditions and how she wanted to help those people and what she wanted to change about it.
Yes, she was asking him to, like I said, create programs and policies that would change the way that they lived.
What do you think was her most important legacy of all of the things that she did?
Well, she did a lot with different organizations, but she made the biggest impact on our world when she was First Lady. Because she was really involved, and compared to prior First Lady, she was involved in her work.
And the League of Women Voters really helped her because it really showed her the life of politics, and it got her more involved than her First Lady.
Did you come across anything in your research that you was surprising, or?
Well, we found that when Franklin was the president, she helped him with a lot of his campaigns, or even prior when he was governor, or she helped a lot with his campaigns and his work. Like, she traveled for him, and she found things about what he wanted to help change or whatever. She was the one who went out and she found those things, and then she would bring them back to him. So she was very helpful to Franklin.
And we were surprised about that because Franklin didn't treat Eleanor he didn't treat her well as being his wife. So we were surprised that she did all those helpful things for him.
But it's also a way that sometimes leaders do things because they can see the value in them being done.
Yes.
And rather than because of any real or perceived personal inconvenience or whatever. And if you had to describe Eleanor to somebody who didn't watch your performance, how would you do it?
I would tell them that she helped many people and she impacted our world and women's politics, because she was really the first person the woman who really stepped up and helped people and but was a woman and helped them with politics and changed people's lives.
I thought your selection, your format of each one of you acting as First Ladies was very interesting. Who came up with that concept?
We all really just combined the thoughts together, and we all thought it was a good idea.
We all wanted to take a different part of her lifetime.
It was nice. It helps to kind of mix it up and keep it interesting. You're over here, you're over there.
Yeah.
Were you able to watch the History Channel program on the Roosevelts?
We watched a little on YouTube, and we just watched we got like information on that videos about her early life.
Nice job.